India recently lost a legend to say the least. Ratan Tata, an industrialist, a visionary, and a man with absolutely no haters. A titan in every sense, yet humble, kind, and compassionate. His critical role in guiding Tata Group in the right direction cannot be overstated. Today, if you look at the combined market cap of Tata's 26 publicly listed companies, and I'm not even counting the private ones here, it amounts to $365 billion, which is larger than the nominal GDP of multiple countries. And this is to give you a little perspective as to how significant it is when such a great industrialist, a businessman, is remembered for being a compassionate soul. But how did Ratan Tata come to be this shining star for India? Let's dive into his extraordinary journey, one that continues to inspire and will do so for generations to come. Ratan Tata wasn't born with the guarantee of inheriting the Tata Group. In fact, he was planning to join IBM, but fate and his uncle J.R.D. Tata had other plans. In 1962, after earning his degree in architecture from Cornell University, Ratan Tata joined Tata Sons as an assistant. And let me tell you, his early days were far from glamorous. He spent 6 months working at Tata Motors and another 6 months at Tata Steel, basically getting his hands dirty and learning the business literally from the ground up. By 1971, Ratan Tata took over the National Radio and Electronics Company, NELCO. This was a company in crisis back then, and he actually turned it around within 4 years. And this is when J.R.D. Tata saw his potential and began grooming him to lead the Tata Group. In 1981, Ratan Tata was appointed as the chairman of Tata Industries, and by 1991, he succeeded J.R.D. Tata as the chairman of Tata Sons, taking the reins of a huge empire. But Ratan Tata's leadership wasn't a smooth inheritance per se. He stepped into the role in 1991, which was a year of economic crisis. The Indian economy had just opened up to foreign participation in various sectors. This meant that Indian companies, including Tata, faced enormous competition from the global giants. Now, coming to the internal struggles, first we have to understand some context here. See, Ratan Tata succeeded J.R.D. Tata. J.R.D. Tata's way of leading the business group was completely different. He kept the companies unified under one umbrella in harmony, primarily through his charismatic personality. People considered him their lead and they followed him unconditionally. Whereas when Ratan Tata took over, the Tata Group was fragmented. With over 95 companies under its umbrella, each business head wanted to go their own way. Now, see, if your colleagues are not ready to accept you as a leader, things are bound to get tough internally. Now, there are key people like Rustomji Modi, also known as Rosi Modi. He was the chairman of Tata Steel back then. He openly resisted Ratan Tata's leadership. In fact, he even called Tata successors clowns. Can you imagine how ugly it got? There was a fierce boardroom battle and Ratan Tata had a heated argument with him, and eventually he took over the charge of Tata Steel. In 1992, he was very tactical, okay? So in 1992, he also introduced a retirement policy that mandated the directors to step down at the age of 75. This was a move that led to Modi's eventual exit, and it was one of the very critical decisions that ultimately unified the group under one vision and helped him maintain the control. But Ratan Tata was not just about protecting the status quo, he was about expansion. Under his leadership, Tata Group went global. One of his defining moments came in 2000 when Tata Tea acquired Tetley, a British brand. Now, don't see it as a business deal. It was a symbol. An Indian company buying out a British one. Like, seriously, that was unheard of back then. There was another defining chapter in Tata's international expansion that came in 2008 with the acquisition of Jaguar and Land Rover. Okay, and here's where the story gets really interesting. The year was 1998. Tata Motors was back then known as Tata Engineering and Locomotive Company. They had launched their first car, Indica. And the development was really close to Tata's heart, exemplified by the fact that he himself drove the very first Indica off the assembly line. Through Indica, Ratan Tata wanted to tackle the Japanese and American cars which were flooding the Indian market. The car actually failed to take off and company suffered massive losses. Ratan Tata was dejected and decided to sell off the car business. In 1999, he approached Ford Motors for a deal. Ratan Tata himself traveled to Detroit to meet the Ford chairperson, Bill Ford, back then. Now, during the meeting, Ford had the audacity to humiliate Tata. He said, "If you don't know anything about passenger cars, why did you start the business at all? We're doing you a favor by buying your car division." After the meeting, Ratan Tata decided not to sell the car division. He transformed Tata Motors and improved the Indica model. The new version became an instant hit among the masses. 9 years later, Tata had his moment. The recession of 2008 hit Ford really bad and it was on the verge of bankruptcy. Now just see how the tables had turned. Ratan Tata offered to buy Jaguar and Land Rover, two iconic brands of Ford. In June 2008, Tata Motors secured an all-cash deal of $2.3 billion to buy these brands from Ford. The Ford chairperson thanked Tata and said, "You are doing us a big favor by buying JLR." Come on, talk about sweet revenge. Business success is one thing, but Ratan Tata's legacy goes far beyond profits. He was deeply committed to philanthropy. In fact, 66% of Tata Sons' profit goes to charitable trusts. Under his leadership, Tata Trusts donated over $1 billion to causes ranging from healthcare to education to whatnot. During the tragic incident of 26/11 in Mumbai, Ratan Tata personally ensured that everyone affected by the terror strike, whether they were hotel guests, staff, or even the first respondents, he made sure that everyone received financial aid and care. The Tata Public Service Trust was set up in response to the attack and still continues to support the victims till today. He was a man who cared for the well-being of not just humans but even animals. Now, there's a story about how a stray dog lived outside the Taj Hotel. Okay. Now, mind you, this is one of the finest hotels in India, synonymous for luxury and whatnot. It's definitely a strange thing if a random stray dog is lying at its entrance. The hotel staff told the complainants that it had been there since its birth. Ratan Tata had given clear, strict instructions to the staff to treat the animals well. In 2018, Ratan Tata was to receive Lifetime Achievement Award in Britain for his charity work. And this was a royal event, by the way. It was accepted by Ratan Tata. But on the actual day, Tito, his pet, he got sick and Mr. Tata decided to cancel his visit altogether. In fact, the common link between Shantanu Naidu and Ratan Tata. Shantanu Naidu, I'm sure you must have heard about him or seen him. I'll tell you the story really quickly. Shantanu Naidu joined Tata Group as a design engineer. He designed a dog collar which had reflectors on it to help the drivers see the dog from afar. His initiative was widely praised and even featured in the Tata Group of companies newsletter. Now, soon the demand for collars plunged manyfold, but the funds set back the initiative and his father suggested, that, you should write a letter to Ratan Tata because he's also a dog lover. Now, of course, Shantanu was a bit hesitant at first, but eventually he was like, why not? And this is a very important lesson for us, everyone. Ask yourself, why not? So, getting back to the story. So he wrote him a handwritten letter and forgot all about it. Few months later, Naidu received a signed letter from Ratan Tata, which changed his life forever. Tata not only praised this initiative, but wanted to meet this young employee. Later, when Shantanu left India to pursue MBA at Cornell University, he promised Tata to dedicate his life to work for the Tata Trust when he returns. And when he came back, Ratan Tata wanted him to work as his assistant. And in fact, he's Shantanu Naidu. He is one of the youngest GM of Tata Trust. Ratan Tata has left behind a lasting legacy for us all. He took the Tata Group from a $5 billion company to a $100 billion behemoth. He could have easily been India's richest man Even the world's richest man, who knows? But wealth was never really his goal. For him, it was always making this world a better place to live. Even Sundar Pichai once said after meeting Ratan Tata, and I quote here, he deeply cared about making India better. Ratan Tata's legacy is one that transcends business. He will continue to inspire countless people, me for sure, not just in India, but across the world for generations and generations to come. Thank you so much for everything that you did for us, Mr. Ratan Tata. You will be very, very fondly remembered by us all.